Hey guys, Luton here. Now we're back for another round breakdown on Battlefield 4. This is a series I haven't done for a little while. It's where we take an overlook at a round of Battlefield, analyse it tactically, and I just kind of give my impression of how things went down and how it was going, things to take note of, things like this scout helicopter which is wrecking us into the ground. Now this was part of my squad practice I do every week with the guys, and this was a 1600 ticket round of Zavod Conquest, and we really wanted something we could kind of get our teeth into, a round that was going to, you know, have something that we could kind of push and pull and move around in without it being over too quickly, or without one team sort of, you know, dominating into the ground. And that's kind of hard to find. I mean, I found it very hard doing stream last night, and you know, we really struggled to get any rounds there which weren't totally one-sided. We had a couple that were pretty good, but overall it was very hard. Now look at this. Basically the squad right now are making a long flank and push to A. This is often a good tactic to begin with because, again, it's going to make sure that, you know, the enemy don't have that focus straight in on the center and then pushing you back to your base. If you can push up to their base, grab the A flag, and, you know, in any kind of conquest situation this is going to work out. Again, my past with World of Warcraft, okay, when you're doing like that kind of same style gameplay, if you push forward really fast, you're going to get that. Now this guy coming in from the top again, this was the guy who dropped me outside, you remember when I was prone over there? Making sure to call him out to the guys, and, you know, I'm obviously injured, I want to get into cover straight away, get the med packs, and I was very important to obviously communicate to the guys, hey, he's up there, he's on top, off they go, drop him, no problem. So that squad communication, always critically important. Make sure to identify your target, their location, are they high, are they low, what building are they in, make sure your squad know that so they can respond appropriately, make sure they can take him out. So at that point, when you obviously capped A, we're going to move back forward. Now we're keeping an eye on what's happening further back in the game, but of course, like, as one squad, you can't control everything that's happening in a round, and this is something that I regularly do as a fatal mistake, is I just try to do too much. I look around the map, and this is my own kind of like failing and plus point, I guess, is that, you know, I often look at the overall picture, and this again comes from my sort of history and things that I've done in gaming. I often were, you know, controlling and overlooking other players, and so I tend to look at the big picture in the game, and this often can be like a really bad thing, because I'm sort of thinking, okay, we need to go here, we need to go there, you know, they're pushing the left flank, they're on this, they're capping this, they're in the middle, you know, I'm often looking at everything that's happening, and it means I can't focus on one thing. So something that I've started trying to do with my squad and as just a player is to kind of take a step back and understand that you can't do everything in a game. You know, you can't destroy the priority vehicle, control all the bases, stop flanks, and make aggressive pushes all at the same time. Obviously, you can't take all the weight of the game on your shoulders. And, you know, people always are saying like, oh my god, you blame your team too much and blah blah blah. I've discussed this many times on this channel, that at the end of the day, your team has a very large part to play in how you as a player actually will have effect in the game, and that's totally logical to understand that, you know, if your team are not supporting you, or if they are supporting you, that's going to have a direct influence on how much impact you can have, because, you know, if there are 2-3 guys all around you all the time, you're never going to be able to get up on your feet to actually have any kind of strong impact in the game. However, if your team are helping you keep those guys suppressed, it's going to be easier for you to kind of lock them down. Now again, it depends on how you want to play. If in that situation you find that your team is not supporting you, you may well find that the best way you're going to get anything out of the game is to sort of take a step back, isolate yourself, put yourself in a position where you're going to be able to maximize kills and all that kind of stuff. However, if the team and everybody's working together, you're going to be able to have a much stronger tactical input into the game and actually have some kind of forward play. Now we were moving here between A and B, obviously had some trouble with those guys, moved across to the building, cleared them out, cleared that B base, and then we're like, okay, we're going back on A. So what we're trying to do here as a squad is we're just trying to keep the pressure up on the, you know, the enemy's bases, the A and B, which is obviously their kind of primary locations. We want to make sure that we're keeping the pressure on them so that they have to kind of come back. The worst thing that you want in a conquest map situation is that they don't have any pressure back towards their own base, because then it means they can focus solely on the center and pushing you back. And if you lose the center at that point and they have no pressure to fall back with, then you're going to end up in a spawn trap situation before you know what's even happening. And so that's why it's really, really important to keep the aggression, keep the sort of the attention for the enemy back here, so that they will kind of pull back and make sure that they kind of keep these things covered. Even if it's not their whole team, it means that you're making life easier for the rest of your team. And if we look at the way the bases are distributing right now, that is keeping the game kind of balanced, because, you know, they're having to come back here to deal with us. It's taking their time, it's taking their thoughts. Here he is, Stan the man. He loves this bipod LSAT right here. But, you know, this is an interesting point as well that I've been discussing with a few people lately, is kind of, has the quality of play degraded? Is it the fact that the player base simply has degraded in terms of quality, and therefore it makes it much more difficult for you to find games. Tactically, they're turning off the lights within here, makes it more difficult for the enemy, of course, to spot us. I don't think so. We actually had a little discuss about this, and thinking back, with COD or with anything there was, public games always sucked. They were always terrible. They were always kind of headless chickens running around all over the place with their own agenda, not really thinking about the objective, not really sort of focusing on working as a team, because that's just the nature of public games. It's always been the nature of multiplayer public games, again, be it on World of Warcraft or COD or Battlefield or anything. It's just always the way, because you do have such a wide variety of players in multiplayer online. It's going to be the most part that unfortunately a lot of people are kind of like casual, or they haven't played the games as much as you, or they're not sort of thinking about those things today. Maybe they're on, they just want to dick around, or you get the players that are super objective, or you get the players that are trolling and dicking around and they really don't care about anything other than what they're doing. So that kind of mix together is always going to mean that from your point of view, if you want to have good solid games, it's going to be inconsistent. It's just always going to be that way. And the only way that you can really try and compensate for that is to run with a squad, or have at least sort of 8 guys in with you that are all sort of focusing on the objective. And theoretically, like, if you're doing that, it should make your overall gameplay stronger. It should mean that you have a better, more objective game. But only if you're staying together. And this was something that we were focusing on in this round, was that we as a squad were trying to stay together, work together, make sure that we're covering each other's asses, and not being just distributed all around the map. Because that's something else that I've found really, is that, and it's kind of logical, it makes perfect sense, that even if you're in a squad but you're distributed all around the map, you're not going to be able to actually support one another. And whereas if you see squads running together in games, and I've seen this multiple times, you'll see a squad of 4 or 5 guys, probably just friends, just playing together, and so long as they stay together, they actually are a very strong, cohesive unit to kind of like punch holes in the enemy. But if they spread out, then they're back to being just single players, and they're going to have no advantage whatsoever. I remember this was a nice little kill right here, straight through. So that, again, was something we're trying to focus on there, is like, stay together. Even in these large games, stay together. Because if you do, you can benefit one another, you can drop the med packs, drop the ammo, you can cover each other from different angles and stuff. So you see here, like, the guys that jump out, make sure, in case I get destroyed here, so Flappy, he's coming back in again now, so I'm waiting for him, get him back on board, and off we go again. So it's that kind of like, wait for one another, push together, don't go running off, make sure to communicate. So even if you do have to run off, if you see some guy, and it's important that you get him, communicate that. Say, hey, there's a guy over here on the right, I'm going to go after him. And then you communicate, got him, okay, let's go back. And so that's the kind of way you want to play it out. I didn't do this on livecom, but I might do for another time, because I know how you guys sort of, it probably helps people to kind of understand and hear that communication and sort of what we're talking about in game. And we're often sort of planning our next route. So whilst we're at this base, I'd be saying something like, okay, we're going to go to A next. You give everybody again a heads up, sort of let them know, then they can start planning and thinking like, okay, when we get to A, where am I going to go to? Am I going to sort of be defensive? I'm going to push on the outside? How am I going to play it? Here I was trying to not stay on the roads, because these guys have been dropping a lot of mines. I was just looking here, couldn't see any mines, so we're nice and safe. Again, that's another thing that I've mentioned so many times before, is, predictability. If an enemy has done something once in a round, chances are they're going to do it again. Look at that guy with the LSAT, Stan the Man. He's obviously running LSAT. He's obviously trying to sort of play that role of being out, bipoded, waiting to sort of pick people off. That's obviously the role he's chosen for this round. Now, some people will be very changeable in the way that they play, but other people will not. And, like I've said before so many times, people used to rage on domination, close quarters, when people were putting C4 on the flags. But I always used to say, well, if they've done C4 one time, chances are they're probably going to do it again. So just drop a grenade in there as you go in, no problem. And it's the same with this. If people are using slams, mines, and look at this again, say here's a good example, they're still dropping these slams and mines. If they're using them throughout the round, you've got to be aware of it. You've got to be ready for it. I was very lucky right there that it didn't actually take me out in one hit as it had done earlier in the game. But yeah, you've got to be sort of aware of what the enemy are doing, how are they playing. That's one of the biggest tools for you as your squad as well, is to sort of understand what they're doing, how they're playing, and then keep that in mind as you go through the round. Are they being really aggressive? If they're being really aggressive, compensate for it. Adjust your tactics accordingly. If they're being kind of passive and sitting back, exploit that as well. But then the most important thing of it all is to kind of understand what they're doing and then watch for changes. Because those changes can often come at critical times, and this is what happens with you in a game as well. You'll be playing a certain way, and then you'll say, hey, this is not working, we need to change it up. So think about that, think that the enemy are going to do the same thing. So you have to keep it in your head that this could potentially happen, and notice for it. If you get too tunnel vision, which happens to us all, you get too obsessed with one thing that you're doing in the game, like maybe you're having a blitzing tank run or whatever, but if you miss that moment when things are changing, you suddenly could find yourself in a situation that you cannot get out of, and that's what's really, really important. Now, we're not actually winning right here. We're sort of down by 4 bases, so we really, really need to turn it around, and we've been sort of pushing the front here, trying to sort of take control, and I think I remember in a minute ago that I actually started saying, hey guys, we need to pull it back, we need to keep control of that sort of CD area, because our team are not doing a very good job of keeping that area locked down, and so I think we make a concerted effort soon to actually kind of go back and pick that off. And again, that's the kind of thing you need to sort of keep in mind, keep aware of. Obviously, up here at the front, we don't have any support. Oh yeah, I couldn't, when I was here, I was just like, oh my god, taking so much fire, and I wanted to get out of there. It's too late, this damn artillery unit. It just shows as well how powerful the artillery unit can be when it's in the right hands, and that PT Havoc guy was having some real good gameplay. So here we are, we pulled back on C and D because, as I say, basically I called out to the guys, make a tactical choice. You know, we've been pushing A and B, and the idea with A and B is that it gives the rest of your team enough opportunity to control CD more easily, okay? But at this point in the game, I was like, this is not working. We still have got, you know, we're very close on tickets, look, it's only 50 ticket difference, and I was saying, okay, at this point we need to make a change up, we need to make a tactical choice to move back, and that's why we decided, hey look, you know, we're still controlling E and F on the base right here, but we need to make a concerted effort to control CD. Then we've got 4 bases, we're obviously going to be in a winning position. So, you know, up on A and B, even though we were kind of keeping them under control, we weren't really winning and sort of holding those bases because it was only the 5 of us. So as soon as we would take one, they'd take one, and it was just kind of rolling on and off. Meanwhile, our team back here were not really doing anything in terms of controlling these CD bases. I don't understand why, but they were just not doing a really good job of that at all. So we had to make an effort to kind of push back, take control of these things. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying changing situations. Your initial tactic may not work out. And you know, you've got to often, I mean, Battlefield and just gaming in general, I often find there's no humility, like, and that's actually online as well in general. Like, nobody has these attitudes anymore of kind of like, oh yeah, I screwed up. I mean, I try to, like, if I make a mistake or I ball something up, I'm like, yep, that was me, sorry about that, guys. There's no big deal in that. It's like, you know, it doesn't make you a stupid player or it doesn't make you a bad person. It's just, you know, sometimes things don't go the way you want them to or the way you expected them to. There's nothing wrong with that. There's definitely this culture online of like always being right. Like, to be wrong is like some personal failing, and it's so terrible. And that's why people get so defensive online, because they cannot handle the concept that you might be wrong, and people get in these arguments. You see it on Twitter and everything, and just people cannot deal with it. But bringing that back to the game, what does that mean? Well, what it means in game is, you know, you need to have the kind of humility to sort of be able to say to yourself, yep, that's just totally not working, screw it. And you know, this has happened to me recently. We were working with the squad, and I had this idea about us running as 2 squads, because we're a squad of 10, so it's like 2 of 5. And I was saying, okay, we'll have one squad as like a kill squad, just goes around, deals with the priority targets like the armor, any, you know, really hardcore snipers, etc. And then the other squad will be a cap squad, move around fast, cap the bases, keep them on the back foot. And, you know, we tried that, but it just didn't really work. And Oleg, one of my squad guys, he was saying, Luton, you know, this plan is not working, it doesn't really work. And I was kind of like, well, you know, in my mind envisaged it. I think I was thinking of it in terms of Naval Strike. And Naval Strike, they're kind of fast, fluid games. There's a lot of movement on Naval Strike because of all the boats and stuff. And so I was kind of imagining it from that standpoint. Now, I'm absolutely sure that when we actually employ that in Naval Strike, it's actually going to work. But for a map like this, where you don't have that speed of movement and the aggressive pushing between bases, it doesn't work. So at that point, we were like, okay, let's just change it up. Let's just work as squads together to kind of punch holes and control bases. And then as soon as we were doing that, yeah, it was totally working. You know, we didn't have to sort of have that other kind of agenda in our mind. And so that's why, yeah, you've got to sort of admit and say sometimes, hey, it's just not working. I didn't do this right, or it was a bad call. And the same with this sometimes, you know, sometimes I'll make a play and I'll say, hey, let's push on to B, they're definitely going to go for that. And sometimes it doesn't, they go for a different one. You can never understand, but you've got to be able to make some kind of prediction. If you don't try and play one step ahead, you never get back in control. Okay, now you can see we managed to take control of C and D, and then the rest of the team kind of moved up to take control. We've now pushed back onto A as a squad. We're the only ones here, and we're keeping control of this while the enemy are pushing back down onto that sort of B, C, D area. Now, not only that, but the enemy obviously are feeling under the pressure that they don't want to lose A, so they have kind of come back in on this position here to take us down. But as you can see, we're taking a hell of a big fight right in here, and we're trying to sort of hold it off as long as possible, because, you know, we don't want to give it up. But this was actually a really amazing moment because as a squad, just the 5 of us, we managed to hold off against, I guess, about half the enemy team. It doesn't look like it right here, but all around us there are people, and the guys below are getting the kills as well. And we're just sort of calling out like, Jesus Christ, they're everywhere, we can't keep it down. They were putting so much pressure onto us, and they actually tried like 2 sort of mini assaults here. I should say throughout this round, I obviously had to edit it up a little bit because this round ended up being like an hour long. It's a 1600 ticket game. I couldn't fit the whole thing in, and you know, I always try to keep as much gameplay in as possible for you guys. Like I said as well, I always like to keep in kills and things because, you know, you don't learn always through winning, you learn through your losses as much as anything else, and leaving those kills in, it keeps the gameplay more sort of accurate. It shows how things are, rather than just stringing together like 6 or 7 kill streaks and going like, yeah, we kicked ass in this game. It's better to put a kind of whole gameplay as much as possible. Oh yeah, I managed to get that. I couldn't. It was like the LAV, and he'd obviously not got any reps, but he sort of, I don't know why he wouldn't have got out when he was really low on health, but that was why I got that kill right there. Wonderful Battlefield chat up in the top left there, as usual. Oh yeah, God, I got the pistol kill. That guy wasn't prepped for that. So this was it really, basically. We were just trying to drop and control this base as much as possible. But look, we've lost C and D again. I cannot believe this. And this is what I was talking about earlier when you say, like, you know, what the hell is the rest of your team doing? And you guys know, you play it, you know how it goes down. This is always the way it is. It's just that sometimes they're just not there. They're just not doing anything. They're pushing back now by the look of it, keeping D. Actually, no, I take that back. Look, they've capped B, so they're actually making some push forward as well. So, no, all right, I'll take that back. Fair play to those guys. But, as I say, the most important thing... Oh, okay, they're losing it. They're losing B again. But, yeah, the most important thing is, of course, to sort of be able to, as I say, just predict, move, understand what's happening. And at this point, we're like, okay, we've got A. They've obviously dropped off, and we're going to move out at this point. So we defended that as long as we possibly could. And I have a feeling, what are we going to do? We're going to go back to B or C? I don't remember. This was it's about a week ago. Going back to B. It's still in contention, it's the nearest base to us, it makes sense to go there. It makes sense to go there as well because if we allow them to cap B, they're probably going to go straight back onto A, so it's important that we kind of try and control our sort of own team here. Got a hit on that truck. I think I go down here because, yeah, there we go. Havoc yet again. CBJ, I've not had a lot of time with that CBJ, but I really would like to break it out. I'll tell you what I have been having a lot of luck with is the Scar. The Scar H, you know, it's kind of like a little rediscovered thing for me. The Scar H, initially, I was never that fond of, you know, it was kind of slow and so on, but it's a super accurate and pretty powerful gun, and I was running it last night. You guys probably saw a little bit of on Domination, and it actually was really nice. Worked out well. I was really doing quite good. I might put that round up as well, because that was a good round, and that was a perfect example of what I was talking about in terms of being a single player and adjusting your gameplay accordingly. And in that round, you know, I'd been being very aggressive with the other rounds, and the guys on the stream were like, Luton, you know, this team is not helping you out, you're not going to get anywhere with this, you should just sit back and, you know, try and take control. So I was like, okay, yeah, alright, I'll do that. So I sat back a little bit, and by sitting back and picking the kills and covering areas, it actually did really well, and I think our team actually won that round as well, because it sort of gave that stability. But I'll post that round up, you can see for yourself, but it was a good one overall. But anyway, here we go, back onto A again. So we're moving back between B and A, still keeping an eye on what's happening in the rest of the map, because again, you need to kind of keep that Overwatch sort of in play. You need to sort of think about the overall gameplay. So we're keeping an eye. Look, we've still got B, C, E and F, and D is in contention, so that's fine. It makes more sense for us to be here than to take the time to run all the way back again. But I think, like I've said as well, objective momentum, flexibility. Alright, flexibility, always really important. You need to be able to drop what you're doing and pull back. So if we were constantly losing C and D, being obsessed with this A base, whilst it seems that that's the case right now, it's more that we're making the choice to be here, because out of the other options, it makes more sense right at this exact time to be here. But as I said, you know, we pulled back when we needed to get that C and D position locked down. Now bear in mind, of course, that we've also got the other squad playing, so those kind of B caps and stuff will be kind of slightly attributed to the other squad, because those guys are having an impact in terms of what's happening here in the game. They're also feeding us further information, so we're actually playing with a bit more of an advantage than you would have in a normal game. But that is yet again another good reason to join something like a clan. To be honest, I had like this revival with the clan, and that's why I put the squad together, because I was just getting so aggravated trying to find games. I played obviously with the other YouTubers for a while, and I found that just other YouTubers have like agendas and time schemes that don't often contribute to what it is that, you know, they're not around when you want to play. So relying on other YouTubers to play with is not really a sort of working system for me, because they're just not there when you want them to be there, and when they are, they don't want to do X game, Y game, you know, so it just doesn't really work in terms of like how you want to play. So that's why I put my squad back together with the clan, because it just meant that we can have like regular squad practices, people are around, they can play, say, hey, you know, you 4 guys, you want to get on and play. So it works much better, and it's actually been really great for me to actually going to get back in and play with the squad and the guys, and you know, we're working on sort of training, practicing different elements, communication, sort of pushes, how to take down certain things. It's really good, really looking forward to it, and that's going to be a positive thing going forward into whatever titles come along, because it means that we've got that group of people there to play with. And I would say to you guys, if you're playing and you don't regularly play with other people, try and message some people in game, or you know, try and find some clans that are worth joining. Do some searches, look around on the Battlelog forums. There's probably some posts there for recruitment of things. There's ways that you can join other people, and you know, that's something I want to really actively encourage, is clans and community. I think I actually need to talk about that a little bit more, because I don't think I talk about it enough. And you know, I always go on about how public games are terrible, and you know, what can we do to improve that? Well, one of the things that we can do to improve that is to encourage people to join clans and join communities, rather than playing solo for just crazy fun times all the time. You know, encourage people to work together. Working together doesn't mean that you need to play with your super try-hard serious face on all the time, but it just means that you can work together as a more tactical, cohesive unit, and it has a massive impact on the game. It has a massive impact on other people in the game and how their gameplay goes, so it's absolutely worth doing. Okay, here we go, we're sort of pushing everything. So again, notice that at this point in time we kind of pulled back again to control CD. We lost those bases, it was important to make that fall back. So again, we're not being obsessed with one base, even though we spent a long time at A. You know, we're making the decision, the choice to kind of come back and defend those positions. So watching your flank, watching your back is always really, really important. Making the decision and the choice to come back down onto these bases. I'm being a little bit careful here. I think I get screwed in the... I think I get shot terribly in the back or something. I'm not sure. I was trying to cover this back, and then I think I ended up getting caught out. But maybe not. Maybe that was a different time. I'm not sure. Anyway, so again, look at this. Suddenly we were in a positive position. We're still doing very well on ticket count, but we're suddenly, look, the enemy have become more aggressive. They've changed up their tactics. And this is what I was talking about, that suddenly you'd be in a game where you felt like you had full control, and suddenly a few of the enemy, maybe they drop out, maybe another 4 guys join. That's the other thing as well in these longer ticket count games, is that players will drop in and out, and that can actually have a really big impact on the way the game goes down. Now, something else that will also have an impact in that same sense is between rounds. Now, although I've said before that you'll often find that you'll be in a game and a round where you just can't win, and you're getting constantly locked down and pinned down, and just it's a steamroll one after the other. Now, that is true, that will definitely happen. However, I often find that if you can also have the patience to stick with a game, it can actually come back and benefit as well, because often at the end of a round, obviously you get team balanced, or some players drop out, new players come in, and you'd be surprising how that can actually change the flow of the game. It always makes me laugh as well that, I mean, this has happened so many times, and I'm sure you guys experience... Oh, here we go, I'm sure this is a mine... Oh, nice driving. Super nice driving right there. Is this a mine horror? Yeah, it's a mine horror. This is what I'm talking about. Do you know why that happened right there? I didn't expect... I had no idea that they would be placing mines this close to our own base, and I felt like totally secure. I mean, look at this, they're doing what we were doing right now. They've pushed way back onto F, and they're trying to sort of keep the control down for us right there, but anyway. Yeah, talking about sort of one-sided games, you've had this happen, I'm sure. It's super frustrating and hilarious that you can maybe win, you can play games where you'll lose like sort of 6 games in a row because the other team are just dominating, and you're trying your best, you're really trying hard to sort of get in on the games, but it just doesn't work out. And then what happens, the team's balance a little different, the other guys, they lose one round and then they all quit out, and it's like, oh my god, seriously, like, it's just pathetic, it really is. And it just shows that that's how people play. They get on a good team where they're rolling, and then like if they end up losing a round, they're like, oh my god, it's shit, I'm getting out of here. And it's bullshit, seriously, it's crap. It's so pathetic and weak that people play that way. Oh my god.
I forgot about that. It just like I remember this specifically because I was just like here. I was like capping the base, and then out of nowhere, wow, a helicopter lands right on me. That guy was like a full-on kamikaze. Okay, but look at how the game has changed right now. Even though we're about 200 tickets ahead, look at how aggressive they're pushing back. And 200 tickets in this length of a game is not a win. Okay, 200 tickets gives a comfortable lead, but it's definitely not a win. Look at this. They're pushing up with LAVs. They've capped. Well, they did cap both of our rear bases. We're now sort of bringing it back again. But do you see how this is affecting our role and what we have to do at the current time? We have to cap these bases back right now, and in doing so it means that we can't work on defending the central bases. It means we can't focus on pushing the aggression back onto them, and so they have turned it back onto us. Alright, so clearing this quickly and making a push forward is going to be really critical for us. Got the nice little vehicle destroy right there. So me and the guys were like, okay, we've got to clear this out and then we've got to get back on point, because if we spend too much time here and the enemy push us back and lock us down, we're going to be in a really serious situation where we can't come back from it, and we get spawn trapped, we can't push forward, and God knows the public team are not necessarily going to have our back all the way, because we all know that's just how it goes. So trying to make the flank, again, really important to make sure that you clear all enemies. If you don't clear all enemies, they're going to be spawning a squad here, they're going to be making a push around. So we've got that LAV down, but we need to make sure we got that guy, and we did. So now we can cap this base and then move back forward onto the other CD central bases. So cap this base. Now again, need to make sure this area is clear, so I'm looking at the mini-map, and I wanted to get up in here. That's fine. Looking back, again, hindsight is a great thing. Looking back, I should have actually checked that carriage, made sure it was clear. There was no one on the map, but I should have had a little look, and I did not do that. So we've capped that bases, but look at how fast we're moving, okay? Cap that base, clear, move forward, because it's really important. Time is important. Time is always really important in these games. It's the most critical thing of all, and it's something that I go on and on about. Is come on, let's move, go forward, forward, let's go. You know, you've got to keep moving forward all the time. You've got to not let them get a comfortable position. You've got to keep the pressure on them. You've got to stop them sort of spawning in, getting defensive positions. You've got to keep them moving. Keep that momentum. Momentum is so important. Hit a base, move. Now that doesn't mean that you're going ring around the roses. I know people love that phrase and they think of that game in Domination Conquest where people cap a base and move to the next and they're losing them. But that is not always the case. Capping a base and moving quickly to a next doesn't necessarily mean that you're just not playing right or that you're not being defensive. If for example, okay, you just have to make choices based around those facts, okay? So we just capped C, we're now moving to D. It's important, you know, we need to cap D, we need to make sure that we have full control, because if we don't clear this out, we're going to be in a situation where we can't keep control of those two bases. So we've got to cap and move, alright? We've got to keep them sort of under pressure, feeling like they've got to defend. It's an important thing to do. At the same time, if we left C and then as soon as we left C it gets capped back, which it has been, then we need to kind of potentially reassess what's happening there. If you're constantly losing a base, it means that the enemy are around that area and you've got to clear it out. And in that situation, it is worth defending. You can say, okay, look, we're always losing this base and we really need to keep it so that we can focus on other things. So I'm going to leave like 2-3 people here as defenders and the other guy's going to push forward with the rest of the team. So again, just making that change, making that analysis, making that flexibility is really, really important. Rather than just saying, well, this round I'm playing the strong attack killer and that's how I'm going to play it. You know, you've got to be able to sort of move around, think, come different directions, you know, change your targets, change your classes, because that's just how it is that's going to make you win the game. So we're back on A here. We're still losing C and D are in contention, but again we've made that push back again to sort of, you know, keep the pressure on them, sort of pull back. Obviously I died and I spawned in on where the other guys had moved up to, so they obviously made that choice after C to kind of push forward. But now we're falling back again, look. Because we've got that A and B, but we're falling back because I said, look, we've got to get back there. We've got to get back onto C and D, make sure that those keep in control. So that's why we're making this push back at this time. And you can see the squad on the minimap behind me. We're all moving together. We're staying together. And that, again, that you remember from earlier, that was the sort of key fundamental point about this round, was that we're working together as a squad. Move as one. So when the squad leader makes a decision, everybody else goes along with that. It's not like, hey, no, I'm not doing that this round. I'm going to sort of fly this, or I'm going to be doing this. No. We're moving together. We're working on it. So there we are, we assigned C, we're making sure that C is staying in control. We're losing A now, but that's fine. But again, look at this, see how they've pushed back behind us and capped E and F, and this was another decision we made. We were like, look, we need to get back here, we need to push back and clear these out, because from coming behind us, you'd be surprised how quickly you end up in a spawn trap situation if you don't deal with these things immediately. So the guys, again, keeping everywhere locked down. I'm covering this sort of front side here. We're trying to cap this base, and I was saying, okay, after this we're going to move to E. So I was all ready to move. Like, I don't care too much about sort of getting the cap points. It's more important to start moving and get onto the next one. That's another problem that you often have, is that people obviously want the points over sort of tactical importance. And I was saying to the guys, you know, get ready to move to E. Sometimes it's worth moving ahead of the cap. If you've got like 3 people on the base and it's clear, start moving to the next one. If you have that kind of selflessness about the way that you play, which I often do, it will give you a stronger position overall. It actually kind of will come back and benefit you, because although you may lose some bases, you will actually end up sort of getting more points and tickets by actually kind of, you know, being aggressive and getting on certain points that you were not before. I didn't see that guy on the left, although I remember in game feeling frustrated that I ran sort of instinctively straight across there, and I thought, if only I'd waited like half a second. Oh, I hate these bloody things. Look, I remember in game, this was so irritating. I was like, I cannot get up here. I was doing the run and jump. I was sort of standing right next to it. I couldn't get in. I was like, the hell with this, seriously. So irritating. But luckily, Flappy's got some heli transport right here for us, so we're rolling out. It locked straight away, of course. It locked every single time you move in this game. I was moving up onto rep on this. Oh, there we go. Interesting though, because we've not really been running in vehicles throughout this round, and you know, that could be a reason why this enemy team were not having such a successful round. You can see at this point that we really have thrashed the tickets out of them. We've literally birched the tickets out of them. I couldn't get out of that hole there. Yeah, the fact that we were getting locked so hard from the enemy there could sort of give you some indication as to what their sort of their focus and their play was in this round. If they were focusing very, very hard on the vehicles, which of course you should do, it's important to focus on vehicles in the game, because if you don't, they will dominate you, guaranteed. But the fact that we were getting so many locks instantaneously there did, you know, as soon as we were off the ground, we were getting locked, and it kind of did indicate to me, I remember that that was like the most unlucky heli boarding ever, Cornet launcher, literally as I stepped on board. But anyway, that was a shame, because that was such a great moment, and I was thinking, oh, we're going to be able to get away here. But it was not to be. But yeah, again, it's all about that balance, and I guess that's my last point with this, is that it's about balance. We were playing really infantry-centric on this map, which is interesting on a conquest map. But playing always in the vehicles, or always anti-vehicle, it's a good thing to do, it's a strong thing to do, but sometimes you need to analyse what's happening there. And I feel like the enemy team, if they had perhaps had a few more people on the ground, because I never felt like they had a very strong presence on the ground in this game. Their helis and stuff were always up though, and I feel like, again, perhaps that would have been a good balancing there. But again, it's just the way public games go. You can't control what everybody else is doing, and it's just unfortunate that you know, for them that's how it played out. But for us, it was a good thing. It meant we were able to keep control of the game, and we were able to sort of cap those bases, defend them, and just generally have a good overall round, which was pleasing, considering you don't get that many good overall rounds anymore in Battlefield 4, not in my experience anyway. But anyway, there we go. So that's my breakdown for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed very much. It was a bit of a long one, but bear in mind this was an hour's round. I was debating whether or not doing the whole hour, but I was like, no, that's way too long. So we're going to have a little bit more of this stuff coming up very soon. Now, one last thing to say. I've been kind of slacking off a little bit with Battlefield recently. Not just Battlefield, but my YouTube channel. I kind of haven't sort of posted so many content. I have had some personal things going on myself, which has affected a little bit of the time that I've had available to do that with, and I might sort of I might give you a bit more about that later on if need be. But yeah, basically this week I'm planning to hit things pretty hard. I've got a lot of talking points to talk about. If you have any specific topics you want to hear from me about, please drop that in the notes below. I'm happy to sort of discuss and comment and talk about it. I've got various things coming up in terms of other games as well, like Star Citizen, that I want to get back on board with, so I'm definitely going to be doing that. But yeah, I've got some different approaches that I want to go with certain things, and you may see a little bit of a return with Roundtable as well if I can work that. I do enjoy the Roundtable, but trying to find people to sort of crew that can always be a little bit tricky. So I'm going to see how I go with that. I might try and sort of come up with a slightly different format. I think also with Roundtable, doing Battlefield all the time doesn't necessarily always work, and I would like to kind of maybe sort of make that a more general podcast show rather than just focusing purely on Battlefield. So let me know what you think about that if I was to do sort of Armour, Star Citizen and Battlefield on the podcast. Not in one show, it'd probably be like one was dedicated to one, so it wouldn't be that you'd have to sort of listen to it if you didn't think it was going to be for you. I would sort of label it beforehand. So let me know what you think about that, whether you want to hear a sort of more varied podcast on the Roundtable. It could actually be interesting. It could make it a bit changed up, so because as I say, you don't always have all the topics, especially not at this stage with Battlefield. But anyway, let me know what you think about that. So there we go, that was the round. It was a good round overall, 1600 tickets. Took us a good amount of time on that one, but I really felt that was a great round. And you know, for Conquest as well, you don't often have those kind of good rounds for Conquest. It tends to be super steamrolled, and I feel like 400 tickets out of a 1600 ticket game, it was obviously a good strong loss for the enemy team, but I didn't feel it was a complete domination. They made several good pushes behind us, they made several aggressive attacks on the centre of the base. We were constantly having to move back and control and sort of take the helm of the situation to sort of bring it back again. So I felt overall that was a good gameplay, it worked out for us, and I felt it was a really excellent round. So thanks for watching today, guys, hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time for some more Battlefield 4.